This is your book. It's great.
Yes.
Man, I learned a lot.
Scary subject.
It is a scary subject. The rise of the Latino far right and what it means for America. What does it mean for America?
Well, it means that after you see the debate today, and you have someone like J.D. Vance that's talking about mass deportations,
Yeah.
still not apologizing about the way that he referred to Haitian migrants, which are legal, by the way.
Right.
That even when some Latinos see that, they still feel sort of reflected in that Trumpism, right? And
Yeah.
so if we consider the fact that today, that very same man, Donald Trump, that is promising mass deportations, he's polling at around 40% with Latino voters.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to question why, precisely because Democrats have always sort of believed that it would be Latino voters that would take them to that future.
Yeah. Man, when I read this, I would, why would, with Trump rhetoric of the southern border of migrants, why would the Latino population support him in such a way?
Well, think about it like this. Maybe you and I always identify as a Latina, and when I do that, I always think about the fact that my parents are Cuban exiles and Mexican immigrants, right? But
Yeah.
there is a sector of Latinos that don't want to see themselves in that way,
Yeah.
do not want to see themselves lumped with other immigrants.
Yeah.
So even if we think about how the Latino community has changed in the last 20, 30 years, we're talking about a community now that is a lot more Americanized and assimilated.
Yep.
Most of the Latino voting bloc is under the age of 50,
Yep.
US born.
Yep.
Hablamos en inglés, no en
Yep.
español.
Yep.
And so that
I
means,
understood that.
Sí. I was testing you. I was testing you.
Yeah.
But all this to say that...
I don't know how to respond, but I understood.
¿Quieres seguir en español? ¿Hablamos?
Yo hablo muy malo español.
Okay. Anyways, long story short, I think what Trumpism does really well is when they think about that Latino voting bloc, they're betting on this one idea.
Yeah.
And that is the fact that there are some Latinos that are so Americanized and assimilated now that they too will sort of buy into the nativism.
Yeah.
That they too will really look at hear the words, send them back,
Yeah.
and not at all see themselves reflected in that them.
And that accesses, it feels like, and you explain this in the book, that this has more to do with the history
Absolutely.
of people who came over. And that's what's so interesting to me was understanding these are traumatic stories.
Yeah.
How does Trumpism, how do they tap into that history? You talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I think when you think about sort of the Latino MAGA Trump supporters, we try to explain that phenomenon through Trumpism, or the MAGA effect. I think the harder part is really thinking about our story, the sort of cultural forces that are among us. I'm talking about understanding the racial baggage that we carry from Latin America. And I think as Latinos, it's hard to talk about race and colorism. I'm talking about the weight of colonialism. Like, how does that sort of brutal history really shape our sort of moral compass? And then I'm talking about the political trauma, what it means to sort of flee from these countries. And then when you think of all those factors together, then you start to understand why Donald Trump feels so comfortable going to the Bronx and talking to some Black Latinos about racism, and criminalizing Black folks to them. Then you start to understand why he feels so comfortable talking to Mexican Americans about the border and the wall, because he taps into that grievance.
What did you see tonight in the debate that maybe I didn't notice or wasn't paying attention to? Was there...
Well, you seem bored.
I wasn't bored, but, I was ignorant to so many things in this book, and that's why it's such a great read. And, man, there's some really personal stories that are fascinating.
Yeah.
What happened tonight in the debate? Was there some calling out to the Latino population that I didn't notice or did notice?
Well, I think to me what was interesting is I think for the first 20 minutes, you see a J.D. Vance that I think the bar was so low. He seemed very decent. He was doing a good job. You almost forgot, to your point, that he had called Donald Trump an idiot once. You forget all these things.
I complimented him on the show, and the whole audience was like, what the with you? But,
but it's true. He was believable until he got to this section of immigration.
Right.
And in that moment, in a very slick way, that's when you start to see the way that he has this ability, and Trumpism has this very brilliant ability to dehumanize the others, And that's when he started to really reveal himself,
Yeah.
He starts the lies, he starts to dehumanize people, and then he can't answer a fundamental question, which is, will you separate families? Will you separate the children, the US-born children of immigrant parents? He wasn't able to answer that question because the answer is yes. And that yes entails separating not just undocumented immigrants, but he can't even tell us with a straight face when he talks about immigrants. Can he tell us that legal immigrants would also be deported. I mean,
Right.
U.S.-born children, will they be deported? I mean, so
Right.
I think those blurring of the lines, it's very dangerous.
Lastly, quickly, what can the Democrats do to reach out more to the Latino population?
I think sort of ground people in the urgency. You know, this is someone and this is a team that is literally talking about mass deportations. You know, and that entails deputizing local police forces,
Right.
going around people's homes.
Right.
And there's over 10 million U.S. citizens in this country that live in mixed status families. So this isn't an immigrant story. This isn't a Latino story. This is truly like an American issue. So ground people in that urgency.
It's a great book. I learned so much. Every American should read it. Thank you for coming and talking with us. Defectors is available now. Paola Ramos.